Hello, welcome back to another episode of Blaque Koffee Comic. That is I, Ty, Blaque, and Kulture.
And it is I as well, Space Lloyd 8.
Won't hold you up for too long. Let's just go ahead and get right into the comics.
Indeed.
Today we've got 3 comics on our coffee table. We've got Deadly Class, written by Remender and Wes Craig. Also illustrated by Wes Craig.
And published by Image Comics as well.
It's got Image published.
Yes. And then we also have Chicken Devil, which was created by Brian Buccellato, and the art was done by Hayden Sherman, and it was published by Aftershock Comics.
Then we have Silver Coin, which was written... Ooh, that one I don't have on me. Wait, where's that comic at?
Silver Coin is right here. It's
got like 3 different writers. It's got a handful of people, folks. So
it is an anthology, so we're only going to pick 2, maybe 3 issues, but they all do have a concurrent theme of including...
So we have issue 8, which was written by Matthew Rosenberg and Michael Walsh, drawn by the team of Michael Walsh and Tony Marie Griffin. And then for each of the other 2 issues 9 and 10, they're both illustrated with pencils, inks, colors, all that good stuff by Michael Walsh and Tony Marie Griffin. However, the writer for issue 9 is Vita Ayala and Michael Walsh, and the writer for issue 10 is Michael Walsh all by himself. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get right into the critiques for Deadly Class. But before we do so, I do just want to quickly go over our amazing rating system for how we rate our comics. Lloyd, do you want to do the comic rating and let them know how we do it?
Oh, most indeed.
Most indeed do?
Most indubitably diddly do. Goddamn.
Okay.
So we rate it based on, since we're talking Blaque Koffee Comics, whether you're in a barista shop or just chilling at home, we rate it based on caffeine level. So for one, at the very, very base, you have dark roast. Not much caffeine. When you read it, it doesn't really energize you enough to continue the series. Leaves a lot to be desired. But then there's also medium roast, which is the step above, where it isn't terrible, but it is not mind-blowing amazing. At the very least, you'll finish the issue and you see room for opportunity to enjoy it. Now there's blonde roast, where they may introduce a new element or just something revisited where it does feel rewarding to complete, so you'll at least finish the series. But then at the very top, the cream in the crop, doggone it, is the espresso tier, where a select few either revisit a brand new idea, things were surprisingly cohesive, and your literary mind is piqued enough to even talk about it with others. Something so good, you don't want to be the only one to enjoy it.
Absolutely. So let's go ahead with that amazing knowledge. Get into Deadly Class. Again, that is an image comic written by Rick Remender and Wes Craig, illustrated by Wes Craig. Let's just go ahead with the general overview. What is Deadly Class about, Lloyd?
So from what I gather, because we read the first volume, so that was the first 6 issues?
Just about, yeah.
Yeah, so for that one, it revolves around this guy Marcus, who left for whatever reason, is no longer living in a boys' home, living on the street, but making ends meet, trying to get by. Has a bit of a troubled past. His family died in the most unexpected of ways. After fleeing Nicaraguan cartel, blah, 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 blah. And
not
while...
blah, blah, blah.
I mean, it's kind of a ... So, his dad became an informant. The place got hot in Nicaragua. Witness protection put him in San Francisco for whatever reason. And they died to a schizophrenic
suicidal
jumper that jumped on the boat from the bridge. and killed both his parents. It's like, what the fuck? So now he's living on the street. At first, making his own ends meet. First, he's complaining about the cold. He gets pneumonia. He gets older. He's making his way downtown. Walking fast, but I guess he's about to die now. You know what I mean? And it comes to Dia de los Muertos. Someone tries to capture him, like the CIA for whatever reason. And then he gets saved by these elite, roguish, young people his age, but assassins by, whatever. They're just so unique. They create distractions. They get him on a motorcycle. He drives a motorcycle. Doesn't know how to, So it follows into that. He's ushered into this class, and
then he is essentially recruited to join this school of assassins, hired by people all over the world. So, I'm sorry, assassins that they are training children to be assassins to get hired by people all over the world to do whatever dubious things that assassins may do for whoever hires them.
So he was definitely selectively hired into this school of school of secret killers. And his first test that he goes, and they have these periods, right? Guys and girls. They have assassination philosophy. Second period is...
Well, hold on. I hate to pump your brakes, but we're just talking general overview.
Oh, general, yeah.
Let's get into art first before we dive into
and it is in the 80s. It is in the 80s as well.
80s. Thank you. That's an important piece. Setting is 80s.
80s San Francisco.
Let's get into the art. I'll start the art conversation. There's a handful of things I wanted to point out about the art that I think is worth noting. I've noticed that a lot of the comics that we've reviewed, the art is real strong in some of these.
It is.
And the story leaves something to be desired. Because I gotta say, as someone who I would say I'm a self-proclaimed artphile, I think that the art for this comic is really, really striking. It does a really good job of balancing realism and cartoonism all at the same time. It chooses when to exaggerate some characters and when to kind of leave them more blank.
I agree with that. Because the artwork itself and the coloring, they work really well to display whatever scene is happening. So, right. Pretty solid work.
Absolutely. And then there are just these moments where you're not sure what's going on, but not because it's just the art makes you basically feel like you are literally in it in some moments. There's this particular moment towards the end of the book where the characters basically take drugs. I'm not talking about no devil's lettuce. I'm talking about these kids.
Not the marijuana.
Not the Mary Jane. Nah, these kids did crack cocaine. But it is
the 80s. It really is the 80s.
But you kids should not do crack cocaine because crack is whack, and that is my PSA, and that is the only thing that I'll do.
Unless you're in Vegas, then you know what's up.
No, shut up.
Huh? Oh, nothing.
But anywho, the kids were doing crack cocaine, and the art for these
not the booger sugar boogaloo.
The moment that these kids are on crack, like the
and
art
acid
and acid at the same time.
Yeah,
the art just really takes you there. Like things are popping out at them, things aren't making sense. But also the story itself is wild, and the art just really helps to enhance these wild moments of the story. So absolutely, art is fantastic. Also, the art has amazing color detail. The color grading for this entire book is amazing. I love the shading and the way that textures are added into certain things. Like just a really well done job of using art to accentuate scenes and using art to really tell the story where the story doesn't have to. You know what I'm saying? Like the art itself could tell the story.
Solid. Absolutely solid.
Without any text bubbles. And I think that that's a really, really well done job by the artist.
And their color choice is super clever.
Very well clever. An amazing color palette. Definitely amazing job by Wes Craig for sure. But I won't dwindle too much on the art because, like I said, the art is damn near immaculate. So I will go ahead and just move right on into the story where most of our critique lies.
Ooh, this is where the work has to be done.
You want to start the story or?
Sure. I mean, I'll at least dive into a little bit. First issue. The first issue of the comic before I get into critiques. It starts off really strong. this one character has actual in-depth dialogue talking about hope and the therapist at the boys' home he's no longer in, talking about bad things all that you can impact is your perspective and stuff, and then this high-speed chase, don't know who's looking for him, but they all are. It's a sting, hi, whatever. And he gets to the school, and then story-wise, it does fall a little bit flat for me. I ain't gonna hold you. And I only say that because we'll talk about characters in a bit, but it did leave a lot to be desired story-wise, because they put so much effort into rounding the edge for Marcus, right? Marcus is the one that this all revolves around. We know just enough. We know that he was in a fire from the boys' home or whatever. And you see another guy that pops up later. They don't even have a name for him yet. Not in the first volume. But he's going through this school, and everybody is stereotypically clicked in this secret assassin society.
So they've got the honky tonk rednecks. They've got the Latin class. They've got the Latin clique. They've got the specifically the Japanese Yakuza clique.
Yep.
They've got the all black cartel clique. It's just like it was very Mean Girl stereotypy.
Yeah. They have the preps who are like trust fund kids, and then you have Dixie Mob who are Aryan Brotherhood skinheads. The Vatos, because that makes sense. You have the Jersey Kings, who were Italian, and then you have FWO, which is Final World Order for black people, and then the Kuroki Syndicate for Japanese.
To be fair, it is based in Los Angeles. I don't live in Los Angeles, so I cannot speak to the diversity or
especially in the 80s.
I can't speak to what that would have looked like in the 80s, but even with that being said, it still felt very Mean Girls. I just want to introduce you to everyone. Those are the preps. Those are the nerds. And I'm just like, y'all are killing people.
Like the nerd there's a nerd that introduces these different cliques. And he's
on
bullied
some
by
Mean Girl shit.
Yeah, he's bullied by a jock in the showers. So it's like this super secret society. It's just high school. It's high school where some of them are even just paid to be there. Like the preps, they got trust fund kids. It's like Republicans and Democrats alike that are just bringing them there. So it doesn't feel. Why are these stereotypical groups right. and gangbangers learning Poison 101? It doesn't make. It doesn't gel. I see their attempt to be like, oh, you do have these different types and cliques, but it could have been done differently.
It just seems very cliche and overdone. And I get the concept, like the concept of where I think they were starting off made sense, but where they ended up after that, just none of it gels. Like none of the aspects of this story to me it's like it's three different stories that were smashed together, three completely different plot lines. Like you could take Michael or Marcus, whatever the main character's name is, the protagonist storyline about him, in his life and how he's trying to find hope. That could be its own storyline.
Yeah.
You could take the traditional Mean Girls spoofy school aspect of it, and that could be its own story. And you could also take the part where we'll get to at the end, where the kids all go to Vegas on their quote-unquote first assignment, and that itself could be its own story arc. Like it could be its own story.
That group itself is its own class. It's called the Rejects or whatever.
Right.
So it's like, what's your choice for these cliques? Well, stereotypically, I don't have a choice, but I'm just edgy enough to say none of the above. It's predictable.
Real predictable. Like grossly predictable for no reason too. Like I think that the concept was really interesting enough, and I think that they really could have gotten more dangerous, and they could have really taken a risk when it came down to their story construction, when it came down specifically to how the deadly class and the school itself was formed, at least again from our perception of the first volume. I can't speak for anything after that. With that being said, let's get into characters. We've got the main character Marcus. We've got Maria, who is another character Chico's girlfriend, who likes Marcus. We've got Willie, who is the black guy, also aka gangbanger. We've got SEEYA, who's Marcus's love interest. He likes her. We've got Chico, Maria's boyfriend, who is actively hates Marcus and wants to kill him. We've got Billy. We've got Lex, and we've got Mr. Lin, who is the mentor for the kids, Marcus, Maria, Willie, SEEYA, and Chico, who's supposed to be like basically the Mr. Miyagi, stereotypical. What's Jackie Chan's master in
is it Master Fung?
I think it's like Master Fung. He's basically like the master of Fung, an edgy hot topic.
He does everything but say "Numo Guegua Fi Tao."
Yes, he is 2007 hot topic edgy Master Fung.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. Yeah,
and we are not better for it. He provides no additional exposition or depth to the story.
You've been invited, and then later on, you have disappointed me. That's all. You've been welcomed into the special. Oh yeah, so they're classes, right? There's beheading for like second period.
We're still on characters, though.
Yeah, but I mean, like in these classes, the characters don't even break out, so they're all in these little cliques. And all in these little deadly assassin whatever. And he's the new kid on the block. So they must all be deadly. And then he gets invited to this AP ritual killing class where he meets Master Lin. But it fell short right after. We saw that Master Lin had a smoky hand. Mm-hmm. Like a smoky claw of the hand. Nothing else.
It's like this to say that nothing matters in this story would probably be an overstatement, but that's about as close as I can get to like the point that makes the most sense. Like nothing matters in the story. Nothing feels important and nothing is at stake. The most important thing that we get in the story is at the beginning. Everything at the beginning feels important. It feels intentional. But the moment that they take it to the schoolhouse, it's like we're basically in edgy Mean Girls world where you know Halloween is the one day a year where girls get to dress the sluttiest. Some girls just wear lingerie. It literally gives you that vibe. Of course, I'm exaggerating just a smidge, but it is definitely very predictable Mean Girls type aesthetic.
They literally go, "You better watch your back. I always watch my own back. I'm all I have left. Walk off, walk off. Walks to cemetery, runs into the other rejected by society, and that's his group."
That is his group, yes.
Yeah, so you have SEEYA, that's from the Japanese one. Obviously, you have Willie, that's the gangbanger. You have Maria and Chico, because Chico's not a part of the group, but Maria's his girlfriend from the Vatos.
By extension.
Yeah, so by extension. And then you have... there's one that's like a former skimhead, but he's just intuitively thinking. Can't remember his name. Oh, that's Billy. Because Billy is the reason that they go to Vegas to kill his dad. Mm-hmm. So they go into... Oh, I also noticed when I was going through this, which is kind of out of order, but when they go to Vegas, the first time that you see multiple color gradients on the same page is when Marcus is tripping balls. That's the only time that you see blue and red and yellow and green to stand up by itself is whenever it's just him in the room tripping out. That's the only time you have multiple color gradients in the same panel. Not page, but the same panel. But like the fact that the color play and the artwork was there, then you go to the characters that aren't as colorful, for lack of a better term.
They are definitely not as interesting. How the kids got to Vegas is important to keep on the storyline. So, like we mentioned, Marcus was running away, got to school, was invited, and then he meets up with the clique of outcasts that are all the peoples that we've named. Basically, they get on their first assignment. No, this would be their second assignment, because Marcus had one more assignment before that, before they went to Vegas, where Marcus and Billy...
Well, we don't know how many Billy had beforehand, but we do know that...
This would be Marcus's first assignment.
Marcus's... the Vegas one wasn't his first. He got partnered up with Black Dude Billy for their first job to kill somebody that deserved to die and leave no witnesses or whatever, take evidence, blah, 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 blah. They failed that.
Failed it all the way.
Turns out Billy's a bitch.
Whole way,
First he goes, I capped 5 people. And then he's like, I didn't cap 5 people. That was my uncle.
That was my uncle.
And he gave me the gun. So, how, question there, story-wise. How did you fool a secret society that's everywhere and nowhere?
Yeah, I don't get it.
We're so secret, we got it wrong. How?
And then we find out that Billy ain't shit. And then we move on to the second mission, which is all these kids. So we got literally Maria, we got Chico, we got SEEYA, we've got and Marcus. They all go together.
Technically, it's the same mission. Remember, they all got that one objection. It's just they failed Billy's. So Marcus and Billy, Marcus got almost expelled, so he's in solitary, and Billy got a punishment of some sort. But while they're in solitary, they're not watched by these deadly assassin classroom things.
They're not.
There's nothing assassinish about this besides the name of their class schedule. So they break him out, and they're like, oh, as long as you're there by the end of the week when they check, that's fine. So how about you help me kill my dad? So that's why, what's his face?
Well, which his face?
Billy.
Yeah.
You know why I'm tripped up?
Where?
Billy is the skinhead that goes to kill his dad, but Willie is the gangbanger.
Yes.
Couldn't pick any less close names because they couldn't be any more different.
Yeah.
Anyway,
same plot line to TBH.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. Outcast. Anywho, that's kind of irrelevant. Point is, they get out before they make it out to Vegas. They get to the desert where there's a whole bunch of like Woodstocky, 60s. Ooh, we're feeling the vibe type people, and they go out and they're like, oh, we're just gonna go take some small drugs, just a little bit of something. And these kids go and get hard drugs, like not no soft stuff, some real hard drugs. And everybody's like, oh, just take a little bit. Not Marcus, no.
He tried one before. Like the first guy that came up to him, he gave each of them one acid tablet, supposedly. Mm-hmm. But after an hour, it was like, damn, y'all really fooled us. And then another guy comes over and is like, hey, I got that stuff to really make you enjoy this. And he's like, I've been fooled already. Too late for you. And he takes like
the entire bag,
puts it all on his tongue. And that is when the colors blend.
That is when, I honestly will say, aside from the beginning, that's probably when the story got most fun for me. It definitely, that's when like the art really took over, and it didn't need text bubbles, because just watching him trip and trying to do basic shit like walk was hilarious, because you couldn't do it because he was so gosh darn high. He's sitting in the back of their car just shivering, not unmoving for like 2 to 3 hours, and they're like, oh, he'll come down eventually. He never comes down.
He's like, digital mountains are coming at me. I should have probably said something. Digital mountains surround everything. They infect. They know. Like,
it's just like
kid was tripping.
He's tripping balls. So they make it to Vegas finally. They get in the hotel room. Things don't go as planned in Vegas because they got some. And I for my sensitive listeners, I trigger warning, bestiality ahead.
Yeah.
That is your final warning. So we things do not go as planned because we get to this moment where we find out who is this even? I don't even know who the guy is though. Like,
I think his name is Lex.
Okay, so Lex, this man, basically gets hired to go after. Was from the beginning of the story, mind you.
I don't know. He's doing it for free.
He's for fun.
Yeah.
He found Marcus and it was just like, I like you. I want you. Now we can do this the easy way.
Oh, you know what it was?
Or the hard way.
Lex used to be his bunkmate at the boys' home.
Was that it?
Yeah, because remember, when Marcus takes his clothes off,
child,
you see burn marks and scratch. He's 14.
Yes.
So I'm
not talking about Marcus, I'm talking about Lex.
Oh, he's probably around the same age. They were in the boys' home at the same time. But you see Marcus's body has burns and scars and shit. And Lex's face, for the sake of this, just call him Lex, because he doesn't say his name. Mm-hmm. But Lex's face, half of it is just melted and fucked up. And he says he's a hillbilly that fucks goats and cats and...
But the thing that threw me was the fact that they show a little bit of him having intercourse with a sheep. And
I think it was right after, but it was close enough where you hear the sheep going. Bah!
That sheep never asked for any of that. Very uncomfortable moment.
Bad. It was a bad case.
Just nasty. And then he, on his way, like, he gets into an altercation with one of the kids, and he picks up a cat, like, out the alley, just plucks the cat.
Yeah, that's Chico. And
after, because Chico ends up dying. I'm sorry, by this time in the story is kind of like falls flat for me, but at the end, basically, like as we said, Chico doesn't like Marcus because Maria, his girl, likes Marcus. They end up, all of them, get into an altercation that starts in the hotel room that they were in, waiting to plan to go kill Billy, the redneck ex-skinhead's father.
Yeah, but they booked a room right next door to Billy's dad. And so it's like, okay, we'll go over there together and do it because he definitely deserves it. But Marcus is tripping balls. So everyone but Billy leaves the room. So Billy is in charge of watching over him. But he gets beside himself. He goes over, and while he's doing the deed, Chico was following them to Vegas the whole time because he knows Maria is really trying to fuck the shit out of Marcus. She comes out coked up and is like, I want to enjoy it with you, whatever. And
Marcus is not even about that. Marcus can barely spell his own name at this point.
He's a virgin.
And it gets messy because Chico comes up and just like, oh, you're trying to have sex with my girl. And Marcus is just like, he's
like 10% there.
He's not even 10%. This boy is on 0. He is literally in Netherland. He's not on Earth.
That boy is zooming and glooming and dooming it down.
And literally, this man is just like, I'm gonna fight you. So Marcus, of course, trying to defend himself, does try to fight him, but to no avail.
She said, bitch, jump out the window. And he jumps out the window on a palm tree. And then Maria, now she has these super steel metal fans that she used earlier, but that did not come handy at all. Gets knocked out. Chico runs down like an intelligent person. By that time, Marcus gets out I will say that brief moment of Chico chasing the fuck out of Marcus with the dialogue, it's tastefully done.
It's a very well crafted scene.
And it's well illustrated. The page layout for the panels.
The pacing for the scene is actually really nice.
It's great.
But then once Chico dies, because they get into an altercation, Chico ends up dying. Once Chico dies, the story just flats again. And you're just like, that was satisfying. So good. Yay.
Yep. And then Chico's body is picked up by the guy that's going to do who knows what with it.
Yeah, Chico's body gets picked up by the sheep sexer.
Yeah.
Man.
By Lex, the llama licker.
Just so gross.
Yeah.
And he's just like, basically, it's Chico's bodies and a cat. They just get picked up, and we just don't ever know. No. That's the cliffhanger.
Yeah, so if we're circling back to the story, was Lex's bestiality necessary?
No, Lex just wasn't necessary. Why was he thrown in there?
Why was he there?
I mean, don't get me wrong. Is it interesting to have like
to fuck cats?
No, I'm not talking about the actual act of having sex with animals is gross.
Absolutely.
We're not debating that, but it's not a debate here. The question I have is it an interesting character to throw into a comic? I mean, I'm not gonna say it's not an interesting character to throw into a comic. I'm just saying.
Let's look at it from 30,000 feet, right? This guy, who's the one guy that knows Marcus's past, and is coming, and he's literally the embodiment of the past coming to haunt him. That's great on paper if you didn't have a ragtag group of kids that are all rejected by these cookie cutter high school things. Like, they threw so many different elements at once, and none of it was,
like I said,
none of it was fleshed out.
Every plot line could have been its own story had they finished out that story. Like, you literally could have had a story from start to finish about Marcus, parents dying, him boys home, and then homeboy finding him and then chasing him all across the states.
Yeah.
And they could have had a standoff. That literally could have been its own story. The Vegas trip itself could have been an entire story.
Yeah.
Like, from start to finish.
I know you're wondering how I got here and how I have glass on my face from this convenience store. My face got run through.
Right.
Let's take you back real quick. Parents died. Boys home.
Right. Blaque. Hilarious little. And I think that they tried to bring like some meta-ness in it. They tried to bring the comedy. They tried to bring so many elements, but where they failed at is. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you wanted me to stop.
No. I was gonna add a point. It just occurred to me.
No, you're fine. Where they failed at is that they had all of these elements and didn't stop to think, perhaps I should flesh out one of these elements before moving to add in others to add more pizzazz or flair to the story.
Yeah, you had a lot of good starts to elements. Mm-hmm. Oh, this school. Oh, they have beheading. They have poison. They have
it's
lunch.
Cute.
And it's like, if that was just it, where they didn't leave at all, cool. But you're like, this kid that was day one and lost in hand-to-hand combat, you're like, you've got stuff. Join this secret society. Mm-hmm. And it just so happens the rejects are all in that secret AP class. But the only person besides Marcus in that group that really gets any time is Willie. And Willie, they punched a shit ton out of Willie. Willie is there, I pop 5, whatever. And then immediately they're in front of Marcus's assignment and he bitches out. And they focus on that. Right. So Marcus sees him bitch out, yells at him. Willie gets chewed out by Chico.
I said that they didn't give him anything. Like, they could have called him Jermichael. They could have called him
Jamal,
Tyrone. Like, there's a hundred
you went far with names. All the other stereotypes. Right. Why the fuck could you not bring it here? Right. So 3 separate people just took turns calling Willie a bitch. Marcus was like, yo, you failed my assignment. And then Chico, I knew you couldn't shoot it, take the gun. And then Lex, the goat gut getter, says it too. That last performance, because Lex saw the first disappointment and the last, but they keep giving him the gun.
None of the other characters, we don't really get any exposition about any of those characters. Even SEEYA, who at the beginning is set up to be like, oh, this is going to be the girl that we're going to get.
His attention, his love interest.
We're going to get information. SEEYA basically becomes a non-player by the end of the story. Like, literally, she's a non-player. We don't get anything from SEEYA.
Yep.
Also, Maria, she becomes basically just a pawn. Not really she's a non-player. Chico, who barely is in the story for the most part, is more of a player in the narrative than Maria, who's supposed to be the girl who's trying to get Marcus's attention.
Maria was used for Chico to be more important before he dies. And it was just so
And we got nothing from Billy, who was the main... Like, we didn't
He was there strangling his dad. Mission accomplished. And that was it.
He strangled his dad and then again became a non-player. It's just like nothing in the story got done.
Ooh, you know what Deadly Class made me inevitably compare to?
Don't say it, bro. You ain't gotta do it.
What? No, not that.
Oh, okay.
This is actually, it's not that bad.
No, it's not. Not at all.
Something is killing the children.
Something is killing the children.
Something is killing the children.
How did you get that? How do you compare these apples and oranges?
Well, you have to. Oh, it's not apples and oranges. I'll explain. I'll go bit by bit. You haven't read House of Slaughter, so you don't know what I'm talking about. TLDR, House of Slaughter is a prequel to Something is Killing the Children, which is why my analogy is going to make sense. I'm not going to go too far into it, but House of Slaughter / Something is Killing the Children has these different assassin covens. Okay. So House of Slaughter, they have different, that's why they have different colored bandanas with things on them. So you have Red House, you have Blue House, I think they call them Blue Slaughters, Red Slaughters, where it's not just racial divides. No, you get picked in your house based on your trinket.
It's Assassin Hogwarts.
They don't have magical powers. They can just see what kills them. But their execution, they kept it very, very simple. Something's Killing the Children involves the one that got rejected because her past kept coming up to her, and their killing mission kept leaving dead people in the wake. They had to wait until people died to be authorized to go in. She said, fuck that. I need to prevent the deaths before y'all get there. So she was in this assassin school. Then she left the assassin school. She was originally a black slaughter. So she had the black bandana. And they had a board of each of the house. So they had the old leader of the red, the blue, the yellow, the black, and the white.
Now you're spoiling the story. No more.
No, it's just different classes. But they executed this idea of a place where you learn to kill, nothing extra, no tropes.
I get you. No, I'm not saying you're wrong. I get where you were going with that. I guess, again, it just... because even to me, that still isn't really what they were trying to do. What they did literally is Mean Girls. They took the plot of Mean Girls, the aspect of Mean Girls, where Homegirl sits and tells Lindsay Lohan what each clique was.
And that Wednesday you can never wear sweats. You can only wear sweats once a week.
They took that scene and they were like, aha, make it murder. That is what that is. But overall, that is our review of Deadly Class. I'm thinking, for me, rating wise, this is probably it's hard, but it's a dark roast. I want to say the art would save it for me, but because of this, how disjointed the comic was, it really, story wise, the narrative needs work. And
yeah, I can agree with that sentiment. For me as I still got Sharpie. For me as well, it's a dark roast. It's not that it didn't have enough ideas. It didn't take time to flesh any characters out besides the protagonist, but it kept introducing them like it was supposed to. So it's like, hey, Marcus and company. Well, explain the company. Well, there's a black guy that's a bitch. Okay, what else? Okay, Marcus calls him a bitch. Okay, what's next? Chico calls him a bitch. What's next? Okay, you know the hillbilly guy? Yeah, the one with the ghost? Yeah, he calls Willie a bitch. That's it.
It's basically Roast Willie for the first 6 episodes.
Yeah.
For the first 6 issues.
One's tripping on acid, they fail a mission, they're all over none of this says, I learned in my assassin classes. Not like, oh, Maria learned hand-to-hand combat. Cool.
None of this is just a story. It's just not a story.
Yeah, Billy was the pro with poison. They introduced school to show how edgy Marcus is, and then their school has solitary confinement. And, like, they introduced it and then stopped.
And it didn't mean anything.
Yeah, so it doesn't make me go, oh, where's volume 2? It just didn't. I think there's a continuing trend of the artists carrying the comic. And that's tough. Writing is admittedly hard, where you're like, I just want them to start a love interest. How many panels do I do that? But that doesn't dismiss, for writing, I'm just going to introduce something new to go, oh, where does that go? Never mind, new topic. Oh, where does that go? There was a lot of that here.
And speaking candidly, as a writer, I think that the big thing that people, I want to tell to other writers is, just because you have an idea and you want to include it in your story doesn't mean you should. And I say that as somebody who has a million ideas. You know, you're writing your story, you're writing your plot line, and you're like, I want to do this, that, and the third. And you got to realize that one of the key pieces of good writing, even good fantasy writing, is that there has to be a goal in mind. Everybody has to get something out of the story. There has to be an end game. And if you have 7 different plot lines that lead all different places, and there's no way for us to get to the end of the story, there's no goal at the end of there's no line to cross for your characters don't gain or lose anything at the end, then there's no reason to write your story.
Some things need to stay on the editing floor. It's great to have many ideas, but some of the most successful work, because it also can go on the other side, being too heavy, and then people enjoy your issues, which we have, we'll have another comic in the future where we'll be able to elaborate. But it's also just as easy to be so in your world with one idea that people just get lost, and they may finish the issue, may even like the writing, but then it's hard for them to pick up the next issue, because it's like, I gotta mentally think. you know? So for something like this, for one, picking, like, you know, I would always recommend picking a topic and ride that one topic till the wheels fall off. Really flesh out something. Like, if they said, before you can even get admitted to this school. My bad.
Dropping our mic?
It's alright. We'll edit that out.
No, we won't.
So they could have easily said, he has to fight the other high schoolers to make it. Or, before you're even allowed here, you sleep outside the gates. And he's used to that because he's on the streets. But in order to earn it, you gotta go in Vegas, you know? Or you gotta, like, it was too many things that are like, here's a task. It's a lot of side missions. So pick one main mission, and in your first volume, run with it. Oh, you're an assassin with a love interest? What if the love interest is your final test to try to kill her? She has blades, you have a sword. Oh, something where you just pick something and flesh it. Otherwise, too many first things. It's like someone that says, first of all the time. How many firsts are there? What do we get second and third? First of all, there's a school. First of all, you trip on acid. First of all, who the fuck is Chico? You know? So,
yeah, Deadly Class was absolutely a trip. However, I would say that if you, I'm not going to say you shouldn't read Deadly Class, but just that keep in mind as you're reading Deadly Class that there may be some points that you miss. You may have to go back and reread it a handful of times, but, you know.
Enjoy the artwork and enjoy the flow, the page flow, the structure. It's a beautiful piece.
All of the work that Wes Craig put into the story as far as art goes.
Shout out to Mr. Craig.
However, to both Rick and Wes as writers, perhaps you may need another brain to bounce off some of your ideas to help with the cohesion of where your story is headed. But that's all that is for Deadly Class. Dang, we did a 40 minutes just on Deadly Class alone.
I don't know if that's really good or really bad, but you know.
In this podcast here, there will be a part 2 to talk about Chicken Devil and Silver Coin in the point 5 of this episode. However, before we go, I do just want to let you guys, first off, thank you guys so much for your support. I absolutely
appreciate you.
All of you. John loves all of you too. I don't know, sometimes.
You mean Lloyd? God damn, the government.
Beep. I'll bleep it out.
Cool.
I'll bleep it out.
So is what? Oh, wait a minute.
Anywho,
yeah, but Lloyd loves y'all. You know,
somebody loves you. I don't know.
Who loves you, baby?
Secondly, if you guys are listening on Spotify, please remember to answer the cute little questions that are there. If you're not sure what I'm looking at, re-update your Spotify, and we actually have questions that we ask and polls that you can take to talk about the episodes and create a dialogue with us. That helps us to figure out what comics you may be interested in us reviewing, as well as getting your feedback on what you thought about the episode.
Throw it on the docket, lock it and sock it, goddamn.
Finally, if you are not watching us on YouTube, you guys absolutely should. Starting at once we hit episode 10 or 11, we'll be switching to live video, so you'll actually get to see us sit in front of each other, and you'll watch all the wild stuff as we slap each other behind the scenes. Yeah, you'll actually get to see us be ridiculous on camera.
she definitely slaps and pokes.
I don't slap and poke. He makes me sound abusive.
Tee.
But with that being said, thank you guys so much for being loyal viewers, listeners. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, thank you so much for joining us again. We will see you next time on the Black Coffee Comics podcast. But before we go, I am Ty Black and Culture. You can catch me on socials, Black and Culture Official on IG and Black and Culture everywhere else.
And don't you have another one?
No, that's it.
Oh, no. And for me, Space Lloyd 8, I keep it very simple until they free up Space Lloyd for Twitch, because somebody's still holding on to it. But you can find me on Twitch, Space Lloyd 8, that's 2 L's. Same thing on Instagram and TikTok, where you'll see some podcast info, some D&D stuff, anything in general, nothing in particular. And then on YouTube, it is Space Case Gaming.
Oh, snap. We'll see you next time. Bye.